Podcasting from a city near you, Free Dope starts now.
And whatever city that is, I appreciate you spending this time here on the Free Dope. I always forget to do this, so let me do this right now. Whatever you're listening on, please feel free to like, subscribe, and comment. There we go. So yeah, leave a rating. 5 stars if you're there you go. If you're on the Apple iPods, what does that call it? Podcast, Apple Podcasts.
I was like, iPods? Do they still make iPods?
I'm so tired, dude. But no. so if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure you give us a 5-star rating. If you're in the Spotify, give it a thumbs up right there. Comment. Say something that you liked from the show, from these episodes we've put out. And also don't forget to subscribe, because once you subscribe, you can have the episodes coming right to your podcasting platform every single time they're put out. Thank you. Appreciate it. Check out my man, Lewis, who I've known for... How long have I known you for?
It is 20 years now.
20, almost half my life.
That's crazy.
Yo,
that is half your life.
Crazy.
That is half your life.
For real, it is?
Bro, you're 40.
Yeah, it is. Yo, dude, I've known you for half my life, man. That's like, hold on. Cool. Yeah, that's crazy. I just realized that.
I've known you for more than half my life because I'm younger, of course. Still.
Yeah, you don't have to keep rubbing that in, man.
Still.
Next year we'll be in the same decade.
Next year we'll be in the same decade. There you go. You want to hear something completely crazy? What? So, we're born in the 80s, and we have lived in 2 different millenniums.
Yeah.
2 different centuries.
Yeah.
5 different decades, all before the age of 40.
Yo, I was just saying earlier that we are the greatest generation.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we got what we got to experience, right? Like, we had life before technology in a way. Like, our parents, of course, had it as well, but it's the thing in which we're adopters of it. So
innovators of it.
Yeah, I can still read a Thomas guide, like, if I get stranded somewhere, in the middle of nowhere, right?
Exactly.
If I got a Randy McNally in the trunk, I can still use that, on my GPS. I can make a phone call from a payphone.
Yeah, we know the struggles of having to print out directions on MapQuest before we left.
And hope to God nothing changed on the route over there. Don't let there be a detour, because you are.
Don't let you forget one page in the middle, and it's like, oh my gosh, I just went from step 5 to 14, and I'm lost.
I got pages 1 and 3, but where's 2 at?
Exactly.
I don't know how to get to this final.
Did I only print the odd pages? How did that
happen? And we know life using dial-up internet.
You mean setting a song to download before I go to bed, and hopefully it's done by the time I wake up?
Oh, yours are done that quickly?
That dial-up? Yeah.
Yours are done
Unless someone called the house, then you get kicked off.
Yeah. Then you have to restart it again the next morning, and then do it all over again, and then by the time
what was the worst though?
What?
Is when you wake up in the morning and the song finally downloaded, and you go to listen to it, and the file doesn't work, or there's some DJ yelling over it. Oh, that's the worst.
Oh yeah, man. Or if it's the wrong song. Funny fucking story. So I downloaded, like, when I was getting to Sublime, right? Like, this was one time I met you. I was getting to Sublime, so I was living in the fraternity house, and I just kept downloading music because it's the fraternity house's Wi-Fi, not mine, right?
Boom.
Yeah, I think it was something like that, LimeWire. But I was downloading Sublime, so I had like this one Sublime song that I had downloaded on my computer.
I don't practice Santeria.
It was some, and I listened back to it, and I'm like, yeah, this song's fucking slaps. It's a good ass song. I fucking love Sublime. I'm a huge fan of Sublime, So I ran in like, I was trying to be super, super cool. Show people that I was a huge Sublime fan when I just was just starting out.
Just discovered them.
Yeah, so I pulled people into the room, we had like the fraternity house, so we had, the Guitar Hero in our room. So people were in the room playing, and then I'm like, oh, watch this right here. I'm like, hey man, I'm throwing some Sublime for a second. Go to my computer, turn on Sublime. Song starts playing. It was Soul Decision, Faded. Kind of faded, but I feel all right. You know that song right there, right?
Not Sublime.
It's not Sublime at all. It was like the most boy bandy song there was. Like, there's some boy band out of Canada. At the time, I didn't know who they were, right? But like, I discovered it was Soul Decision and Faded because everybody looked at me and just
They're like, that's not the Sublime that I know.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, so at the moment, people knew I was a poser. So yeah,
Mm,
that's
mm,
my sublime story right there.
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but we're not reliving the past. We're
No,
talking about. We're going to talk about the
we're gonna
future
look towards the
today.
future.
Looking
Exactly.
towards the future because I found this article. I think it was yesterday. I was trying to stall and pull it up real quick. It links happiness to the amount of money you make. And there was this study that was done by people, I don't know if they're professors, but I'll say professors from Princeton University back in 2010, saying that after about $75,000 a year, your happiness somewhat plateaus even as your income increases. However, a study published in 2021 by Matthew Killingsworth from University of Pennsylvania said that your happiness continues to grow as your income increases, even beyond a $75,000 salary. And what's more, his research found that happiness really only plateaus as income increases roughly above 100,000 a year for people who were already somewhat unhappy to begin with. But I wanted to bring that up though because I think we have this conception that you have to make money in order to be happy, that you have to have your income increase in order to be happy. And then the flip side of that is like, well, money can't buy happiness, right? The truth lies somewhere in the middle. Like once your basic needs are met, you're going to be happy because it's a super struggle, right? Like living paycheck to paycheck, having to worry about where your meals are
Stressful.
going to come from, keeping the lights on. So I don't believe in that whole saying that money doesn't equate happiness because you have to have a certain amount of money to be happy.
Necessary.
Right. Now, what you do with your disposable income after your basic necessities are met is where the happiness resides.
Yes and no,
Okay.
because I agree with you that money doesn't buy happiness. I believe money buys options. And
Mm.
depending on what you do with those options, it can lead to happiness. And I feel like both of those studies are probably saying the same thing because happiness plateaus at 75 in 2010. Happiness plateaus at 100 in 2021. Well, that's with inflation, that's probably the same number. So,
Exactly. Like, right. 75 grand is going to be different in Fargo, North Dakota than it is in, Manhattan, right?
very true.
Or
And
75 grand goes way differently in Rialto than it does in,
Redondo Beach.
yeah.
There you go. So, but I think, it's what you do with that money. Because I've known people that made 500,000 were absolutely miserable. They made a lot of
Right.
money, but they didn't have time.
Right.
And depends on what you value.
Right. And that's what I don't know if I said it as eloquently as you did, but yeah, I agree with that. It's the fact that it's what you do with what you make is where your happiness resides.
Yeah.
Right.
And
And you don't have to have, in order to be quote unquote happy, you don't have to be making 650 grand a year.
no,
But you as a financial professional,
there I
this
am.
is this is your wheelhouse right here.
This is my wheelhouse. Let's take it back instead
All right.
of, let's talk about the why,
Yeah.
why do I do this? Why? Well, this is my passion. Um, it's funny. We're all thrusted into this world, this adulting world, right?
Hmm.
Without not knowing properly how to adult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because,
Yeah. Yeah.
right, we go through school and what do they teach us? Algebra, math,
Geometry and shit
English,
stuff. I'm trying not to
chemistry.
cuss. I'm trying not to cuss
It's
stuff.
it's hard when you think about it though, because it makes you
Right.
mad. Because
Stuff I've never used. Like. But you're right though. Like the argument is, why don't you teach people how to run household finances, balance a checkbook,
exactly.
think of
Well,
basic
I
necessities.
I don't know how many people are balancing checkbooks these days, but I get the premise and what
I'd
you're
be,
what you're
man, a lot of people. I mean, the banks really love the fact that people aren't balancing checkbooks anymore
a
because those overdraft fees are insane.
very true, very true. Which leads me to one of my first keys to success, but we'll tap into that in a second. But
Right.
to your point, yeah, it's what you do with that money, and that's always been my passion. Is that this is a topic that so many people don't understand. Um,
Right.
I've been in financial services for my whole entire career, over 18
Hmm.
years now, and it's something that I found, and I always make the joke. I remember y equals mx plus b from school. You remember that one?
I don't even know what that
Algebra
is,
right
dude.
there.
I,
It's
I,
algebra.
I, I think I remember. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, but now the aunt and the Sally sometimes equal the same thing on the same. I don't know what I mean.
Yeah,
PIMDAS.
PIMDAT. It's order of operations.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
see.
But once again, we remember all of these things, right?
Right.
But how often do we actually use them?
And what age would you say do people start getting serious about their finances? Like from your professional experience, when people start sitting down with you, taking meetings, really planning for the future, right? What is that age? You think?
It really it really depends.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to come with an average age because I've met
Mm-hmm.
individuals that were 18 and were serious about it and knew what steps they needed to take and had their stuff in order. And I've met people in their 40s and 50s that I knew no clue what they were doing and not really serious. Like, oh, it'll pan out. Don't worry about it. It'll take care of itself.
Do you think the ones that were 18, let's take the 18-year-old that comes to your office and starts talking about their finances, do you think they're like that because of the household they were raised in? Or do you think, or do they just have that financial wherewithal that they want to sit down with you and talk to you?
It's strange. I think once again, I hate not giving a direct answer,
Mm-hmm.
but it really depends on the individual because I've known individuals that grew up in a household with a lot of financial literacy,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't value money. They took it for granted, if you would.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't necessarily have that financial maturity or wherewithal to be able to manage things where I know other individuals that came from a place of scarcity instead of abundance. And you know what? They took it very seriously because I don't want to be in that same cycle or in that same struggle that I've seen my parents go through or that I've experienced myself. So it really just depends. I don't necessarily think it depends on age, but more upbringing or cultural background or demographic, if you would.
But you hit on a very key point talking about the value of money and the perception that you have around money, because we all have attitudes when it comes to a dollar bill, right?
Yep.
You can give somebody $1, somebody might go and buy some candy with it. Somebody might go and say, hey, I want to put it in the bank because if I put it in the bank, I can get interest on it. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
people value money differently. So I think it's part of it is addressing your attitude towards money
Yeah.
and how you relate to it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why, once again, money doesn't buy you happiness, but it
Mm-hmm.
buys you options. And it depends on what you value as well. If you value, yeah, I just want to have a lot of money sitting in the bank and I don't care if it's growing, I just like that security of knowing I have that to fall back on if something happens. That might be different from someone that's like, you know what, I don't need a lot of money to live off of. I want to save it for the future, or I want to invest it and save it for tomorrow or the next generation. So it
Yeah.
really does depend on your view and how you value it.
It
Um,
doesn't come down to money traumas. Like, I mean, I guess that's the same thing, right? Like you grew up in a household where the lights, the basic necessities weren't always met. You don't know if you're going to come home from school and find the lights off.
yeah,
You don't know if there's going to be food in the fridge, right? So when you do start making money, you probably have this feeling of saving it, this need to save it because you don't want to go back to that traumatic experience you had growing up. Whereas if you grow up in a house, that money's just freely flowing, you can blow, 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 blow. Sometimes that might continue the cycle of just getting into debt and not really balancing your checkbook, even though people don't do it.
but yeah, not balancing your finances, I would say,
There you
not
go. Yeah.
not knowing what's flowing in and out,
Hmm.
because you're used to living in a household where money was never an issue. If I wanted something, I got it. It wasn't, ooh, I don't know, we got to wait till the 15th. It was,
Hmm.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
I think trauma does have a big role in that, because that's what induces fears. I've known people that lived through the Great Recession, lost their house, and that's the greatest fear is like, oh my gosh, I never want to be in that situation again where I lose my house or I don't have a roof over my head.
Bro, I just realized like our age group, our generation, we've lived through so many financial downturns,
Yeah.
and it's like, I mean, the recession, I don't know if it's happening right now. I know there's, I mean, I guess you can call it a recession because there's some pullback in the economy from the heights that it was a couple of years ago, but we've experienced a ton of financial downturns.
Oh yeah. Remember Y2K? I mean, we had a few bad years. I mean, right before that
Mhm.
was the dot-com bubble, so it was good.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
Y2K hit, world was coming to an end. Next year, 9/11, that happened. We went to war. Economy was bad. Boosted up after that, and then
Yeah,
came crashing right back down in '08.
yeah,
So
2000, but 2006 was a precursor to 2008. People
yeah,
forget because it started. Yes, I remember it started in '06. Massive layoffs started popping up in '06,
kind of
and a
like what
lot of
we're
it,
seeing now.
yeah, and a lot of it starts the financial system, the way that people are able to game it.
Oh yeah.
Because their view of money is the fact that it's like money is there to be made. Money makes money, right? At anybody's expense. Your money is supposed to grow. It's supposed to make, and who cares what effect it has on the economy? Let's prop things up as far as we can. Take the money out when we get the profit, and then let things come crashing down.
And you see that with manipulations in the market today. Back
Mm-hmm.
then it was manipulations in the market due or relating to real estate and how those things are packaged and sold and all that. Now you see different manipulations in the market with cryptocurrency and even meme stocks that people are boosting, but there's not really any value there.
I can't wait for that GameStop movie to come out. I just saw a preview for it. I forgot the name of it. I think it's like Stonk, and not even Stonk. I don't know what it's called, but it's a GameStop movie from a
Yeah.
couple of years back, right? When GameStop, uh, when the hedge funds were trying to short GameStop and started to drive the stock price way down, they were going to cause the company to go out of business, right? And people on Reddit came together and said, if we go the other way, Wall Street Bros on Reddit, it's like if we put money into GameStop, it's going to raise the value, and then they're going to lose their money on the other end, people that are shorting it, and then we're going to be rich.
Yes. But also driving the price down, they were basically betting on a dying market. So they
Yeah.
were following the trend of it because, frankly, retail, things of that nature, most things is going to a streaming service anyway. I mean, if you look at the new systems and consoles, they don't even have a slot for a disc anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's all downloadable digital content.
I
So,
regret I regret that decision. Make sure you buy a disc. I have a PS5 that doesn't have a disc in it, and I'm so pissed off. I have to buy these expensive games. I can't buy used games anymore.
yeah, that's the one advantage of it is that you can retroactive, right? If it's an old game that you want to play and it's like,
Right.
oh, that's my jam, you don't have to pay for it if you have the disc. But
That's one of my 5 financial keys to success. Buy a PS5 that has a disc in it. It has a disc
there you
drive,
go.
so you can go
That
and buy
that's
used
tip
games.
tip number one right there. So
Yeah, so I'm really excited to launch this series with you because I feel financial literacy, right? Talking about money traumas and talking about your personal passion for this topic and helping people out with their finances.
it's what I do for work. I mean, my job as a financial advisor is essentially I say I help people adult properly. So, um, and really, when it comes to this, I have five basic principles or keys to success that doesn't matter if what cultural background, doesn't matter what economic background. It's something that applies to everybody,
Hmm.
and it can help you succeed financially. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that and being able to succeed financially, but
Right.
I feel like these are five basic steps that if people could apply, which easier said than done, can definitely help.
And before you hop into your 5 keys to financial success, and each one, and then we'll get the 5 keys, and then we'll dive into them more in depth in every single episode to follow.
Oh yeah.
Um, but before we get the 5, though, you mentioned this is something that people can do across demographics. Like from your experience, do you see like certain demographics, like race wise, as I guess not having as much financial literacy?
Yeah, because I mean, financial literacy historically has been communal. It's been what do your parents know?
Hmm.
What were they taught? What do people around you know? And in certain environments or societies, cultures, socioeconomic backgrounds, however you want to play it, some of that information, frankly, wasn't available, due to systemic racism, due
Redlining
to
is a huge one.
all kinds of stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of factors, but this is not to go into all that.
No,
But
but for a second though, no, but that's the truth though, right? Like
yeah,
we also forget about that. Like there was a period of time, right? Redlining, right, where banks wouldn't lend to people buying houses in certain areas, certain zip codes, right, certain parts of the city, which predominantly were black and brown people were living at. So banks wouldn't lend to them because it wasn't financially sound for them to do so. So a lot of this also has to deal with that systemic racism that has been in the banking industry, been in, the financial industry for decades, for generations. So even though some people might be behind the curve compared to others, it's also really in no fault of their own, but it's also incumbent upon them to gain that knowledge to help the generations to follow.
Yeah, I mean, before, yeah, it was tough because of situations like that, and you got to think that's what's established a lot of the wealth of today was through real estate
Yeah.
because they had grandparents that bought homes when they were $10,000 in the heart of
Yeah.
LA, and now those things are multi-million dollar properties, but individuals that come from communities that look like us didn't
Mhm.
have access to those things. So instead of buying in at that low point, they're buying in when it's 100,000, 200,000, which compared to today's prices is still a steal. But that wealth growth and generational wealth wasn't able to be established at that point.
And even if you did have access to it, they would come and take it away from you through eminent domain to build a freeway. I mean, the biggest example I can think of that here in Los Angeles is Bruce's Beach, right? Where the black family had this nice piece of property at the beach. I think it's Manhattan Beach, I want to say, or
I
down there.
think
It's one of
so.
the two
Yeah.
beaches. But they had this giant piece of property, and as white people started moving in, they kicked the family out through eminent domain. The city took it over. It was a club where black families would congregate at, right? It's owned by the Bruce family, I believe, and the black families would hang out there at the club. But as the white people started moving into that area, they took the land away to create a lifeguard stand or a fire
A state
station right
park
there.
or something. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like a fire. It's owned by the city or the county, but it's a fire or a lifeguard stand, whatever. They've since given it back to the family after all these
Yeah.
years. But that's just a prime example of when people were trying to get ahead, right? People, things would happen where it would come and get torn down. I'm just thinking right now, even,
No, I mean,
Black Wall Street, right?
I was just gonna say Black Wall Street. That's a
Yeah.
prime example of it.
Yeah.
If you don't know what Black Wall Street is, look it up. I mean,
Yeah.
it's basically a black community thriving
In Tulsa.
separate from the white community in Tulsa,
Right.
Oklahoma, and essentially was burned down to the ground just because, even though it was nowhere near a white community, it was just his
Right.
own black metropolitan Black Wall Street. You know, anyways, can't even have our
But
own.
we talked about, again, we talked about money traumas, right? So like that, some of that still is ancestral. It's ingrained in the community. It's affected, you know, our parents, our grandparents, their parents, right? Like it's passed down generationally. So there comes a point in which you have to flip the script. If you're coming from an area where finances haven't been managed properly for generations, right? It's now it's your turn to change the tide
Exactly.
for people to come after you.
Exactly, because we could always look to the past and say, oh, this is why, but what are we going to do today that's going
Right.
to affect their future? I mean, I have this saying that I use for my financial planning business, and it's do something today your future self will thank you for.
100%.
And that's what we have the power to control. And that's what these five keys can help people do. And I mean, this is just a starting point. There's a lot more
Right.
building blocks on top of that. And under these five keys, there's a lot of subtopics that we can dive into. And I truly feel financial planning is something that the earlier you start, the better, but it's never too late to start.
Mhm.
So just the way compound interest works and insurance works and all these things works, the younger you are, the sooner you start, the better you off and you're off in the long run.
Before you give me those five keys, if at any point you're listening to this episode, future episodes, we get the five keys right now from Lewis, and you want to chime in and you have a question for him that you want him to answer on the show, this is the only thing you got to do.
Leave a message at 213-935-0606.
213-935-0606 is the number. All right, here are the five keys to financial success.
So key number one, live from a budget.
Mm.
Businesses operate from a budget all the time. They know what's coming in, they know what's going out. And this is kind of the updated version of balancing your checkbook.
Right.
If you aren't living from a budget, you have no idea what you're spending. And that's when I find individuals, not going to name names, but I've had clients before that didn't realize that they're spending hundreds of dollars at Starbucks a month. Hundreds of dollars. You go every day, just think about it. Let's do some simple math. You go to Starbucks 5 days a week. Just let's just say during the work week. Average $10 a day. That's $50 a week. That's $200 a month right there. Imagine compounding $200 instead of spending it somewhere else. So that's just one diving into living off a budget.
Mine was In and Out, my guy.
See,
I don't think I stopped. I think I just stopped recently going to In and Out because they raised the price down to like three some. So now I'm like realizing it used to be 202 for a cheeseburger, animal style, no pickles, well done.
everyone has their in and out order.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Everyone has their I don't even call them vices, but everyone has something that they spend on. And I'm not saying you can't spend on anything, but know what you're spending for today and what you're saving for tomorrow as well. So, um, number two, controlling debt.
Mm.
Not all debt is bad debt. People have a adverse reaction or a negative connotation around debt, but not all debt is bad. And it's controlling debt and knowing the different types of debt. And, this is diving into a lot of different topics, whether it's talking about the pros and cons of renting versus buying, or
That's what I just typed in. I want to dive in that. I can't wait for that episode right there because that
boom.
is, oh God, there's so much to say on that one right there.
Yeah. Also,
Renting versus
credit.
buying.
How does credit work? Credit score? What factors go into it? That's all a part of debt as well. So, definitely a big topic right there. Um, Third key to success, and maybe something that also coincides with mental mindsets, Mental Health Monday, would be paying yourself first.
Mm,
That could be a tough concept for people to get down and to understand, but it's so key to do.
that's hard.
So that's why we're going to dive into that. And
Yeah.
then four is invest early and often. A lot of times when it comes to investing, people want to wait. So like, oh, I need to pay off my debt first before I invest money. Um, or let me time it. I'm just waiting for the right time to get into the market because it's been volatile and all this. Like, investing is not about trying to time the market, it's about time in the market.
Mm,
So invest early, invest often, and work with a professional like me, of course, that can help mitigate some of the feelings that you feel when it comes to investing, because that's something a lot of times. Stock market's going down. What do people want to do? Let me take my money out because it's losing money. That's making a decision from your gut, from your heart. But if you're making the decision with your brain, then hey, that's when we're going to double down and put money in because now it's on sale. We're not selling at a loss, we're buying at a discount. So,
and people always got to remember too, everything's on paper until you take it out.
exactly, exactly. Um, and the fifth key is protect what's most important. And it may, and I'm not necessarily saying this is the order that we should address things,
Mm,
but protecting what's most important, this can mean a lot of different things for a lot of people. Um, Topics of insurance. What is the point of insurance? Do I need insurance? What age insurance? What type of insurance? Do I need life insurance? Do I need auto insurance? Do I need home insurance? Do I need health insurance? There's a lot that goes into this. And there's a lot of things to protect in life that can derail from our future goals, dreams, and aspirations. So
can you get insurance for your insurance?
that actually technically, yes, it's called
Oh, geez,
supplemental
really? Thank
insurance.
God. Wow.
So
Okay. Geez.
that's supplemental
Wow.
insurance. That's what
Wow.
supplemental
Okay.
insurance. It's when your
All right.
insurance isn't enough, you have more insurance. So
My
yes,
God. Okay.
technically
Crazy.
speaking,
All right.
you can. You can. So, um,
Learn something new
but
right there.
I'm, but I'm super excited to talk about all these topics because,
Yeah.
like I said, this is my passion. This is the work that I do every day. This is what I help individuals, families, business owners figure out for themselves, for their financial futures, for the people they care about most. And the topics that we're going to dive into, it's going to be more high level. And when it comes to everybody's individual financial journey, that's different. So don't compare yourself, and this is getting to the mental side too, is don't compare
Mhm.
yourself to where someone else is, because you might be on chapter 2 of your financial story, and they might be on chapter 17, and you comparing yourself to them, even though you may be in the same age range, or similar situations, that could be detrimental. They say comparison is the thief of happiness.
And the important thing is that you start. Take that
That
first
is the
step.
most important thing.
I'm really looking forward to going through the 5 keys to financial success. We had an overview of them, but we're going to dive deep into each one on these coming episodes. Live from a budget, control debt, pay yourself first, invest early and often, protect what's important. And like I said, any questions that arise on these topics that you want Lewis, because I'm not going to really offer too much in the way of insight. So any questions that you want Lewis to answer on these topics, this is the only thing you got to do.
Leave a message at 213-935-0606.
213-935-0606 is the number to leave a message at. And how can people reach out to you in the meantime before we get the rest of the episodes in this series?
You can email me, Lewis, at lprfinancialplanning.com. You can visit my website, lprfinancialplanning.com. I just appreciate the opportunity to share some of this information, educate some people out there. We're not taught this stuff in school. If you can't tell, I have a passion for this. I geek out on this. So any way I can help, I'm always happy to.
And thank you again for hopping on. I'm really excited to go through these 5 keys of financial success on these following episodes of Free Dope. Don't forget, I said at the top of the show, I'm going to say it again because I keep forgetting to do it, so I'm going to do it 2 times in one show. Whatever you're listening on, take a moment to like, subscribe, and comment. That really helps out the algorithm, gets it juiced, gets this content out to other people who might not even know that we exist, but want that free dope. So whatever you're listening on, take the moment to like, comment, subscribe. That would mean so much. And thank you again, as always, and we'll catch you next time.
Free dope. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get podcasts.